Emirates airline plane is heading towards Dubai International Airport from India. During the landing, suddenly this plane stops getting lift and the plane falls down on runway like a disabled bird. And in a few minutes, it thunderously exploded. But how such a big incident occurred to an advanced plane? Let's know the reason behind the crash of Emirates Flight 521 in today's case study. August 3, 2016, around 10 am, Thiruvananthapuram International Airport, India. Emirates Flight 521, a Boeing 777 was preparing for takeoff with 282 passengers and 18 crew members on board. 34-year-old captain was flying the plane having 7,400 flight hour experience. However, the captain's name was not made public. Other than the captain, First Officer Jeremy Webb had 7,900 flight hour experience. At 10:34 am, Flight 521 departs from Thiruvananthapuram International Airport, heading Dubai via sea route. The plane reached Dubai around 2 pm. The weather was absolutely clear. While enjoying the view of the whole city, the plane started moving towards the airport. After getting clearance from ATC to land, the plane slowly started aligning the runway. When the plane was about to land, just before the touchdown, the pilot took a decision which was going to take the plane towards a disaster. The pilot informed ATC that we are rejecting the landing process and proceeding for a go-around. All this was happening so quickly that neither did the pilot got time to tell ATC nor did ATC have time to ask. ATC immediately gave permission for a go-around and ordered them to climb to the altitude of 4,000 feet. There were other flights that day which were going to land at the airport, but all those planes were stopped from landing and an emergency alert was issued. Within seconds, the aircraft climbed approximately 85 feet. The pilot quickly retracted the landing gear, but struggled to gain altitude. Ultimately, it crash-landed, skidding along the runway for 2,600 feet. The landing gear of the plane was closed, so there was a strong shock on the fuselage of the plane. The impact caused a fuel leak. Soon the plane started filling with smoke, which created panic among the passengers. Some passengers delayed evacuation by retrieving luggage, obstructing exit paths and potentially endangering lives. Just think, there were 300 people on the plane. If everyone starts taking out their luggage, it could take up to 1 hour. The fact is, people do not die due to crash, but the fire caused after the crash takes the life of the passengers. But many passengers weren't aware of this. Shockingly, a viral video highlighted passengers' priorities to luggage. Due to this, Indians were criticized a lot, because among the 282 passengers, 226 were Indians. Well, the incident happened at the airport, so just 60 seconds after the incident, team of firefighters were deployed to extinguish the fire. After approximately 10 minutes, all passengers safely evacuated the plane, leaving only the captain and crew on board to ensure no one was left behind or injured. Tragically, the fire increased and reached the center fuel tank of the plane. Both the wings of the plane consist about 70% of the fuel. There is also a fuel tank in the body of the plane, in which the remaining 20 to 30% fuel is present. This tank is called the center fuel tank. If the fuel tank of the wing catches fire, then it's harmless as compared to the center fuel tank, because all the passengers are in the fuselage of the plane. But if the center tank of the fuselage of the plane catches fire, then the result can be very deadly. The same happened with Flight 521. As soon as it reached the center fuel tank, it broke the roof of the plane and caused a loud explosion. At this time, there were only one pilot and one senior flight attendant in the plane. Both of them were injured in this blast, and a firefighter, Muhammad Hassan, got seriously injured due to this blast and later he died. The blast injured other firefighters too, due to which the process of extinguishing the fire was also slowed down. The intense fire took 16 hours to fully extinguish under the scorching 45 degrees Celsius Dubai sun. Finally, after 16 hours, everything calmed down. 38 people were injured in this accident and our firefighter Muhammad Hassan died. The very next day of the incident, the investigation team started finding out the cause of the incident. Both the black boxes were sent for decoding. It was going to take a very long time to solve this case because dozens of people had to be questioned. Pilots, flight crew, ATC, black boxes. Keeping everyone in mind, they had to prepare a report that would fit in everyone's statement. The ATC controller was interrogated. According to him, the pilots were performing for a go-around but they did not declare any kind of emergency. But an alarm was ringing in the plane.
Landing gear, landing gear, landing gear.
In the initial investigation, it was found that maybe everything was fine in the plane. Maybe that's why the pilot did not declare the emergency. Or it could also be that maybe he did not realize the danger. The alarm that was ringing in the plane. Landing gear, landing gear. When the pilot crosses the touchdown point of the runway, this alarm basically tells that the plane have crossed more than half of the runway, but still it have not landed. In such a situation, it is possible that the runway may end up before the plane can be stopped. This is why this alarm is installed. The investigation team now started to feel that this plane may be much above its glide slope, due to which the plane could not land at the right point. But the ATC controller rejected this reason, saying that this plane was at its accurate altitude, neither too high nor too low. It should have landed perfectly, but it went much further. But why? And how? Normally when the pilot realizes that our altitude is not right for landing, then they perform for a go-around from 4,000 to 5,000 feet. Above and after taking a go-around of the airport, they again tries to land while maintaining the correct altitude. But in the last moment of landing, if the pilot suspects something wrong, then only he does for a go-around, even though it had already touched down on the runway and take off again. The pilots of Flight 521 were trying to do the same procedure. But on reaching about 85 feet, the plane stops getting lift only when the engine of the plane stops generating thrust. So was there any problem in its engine? One more factor could be reason. On the day of the incident, the weather was absolutely clear, but the wind flow was suddenly changing. Reason for this could be that Dubai is a city located near the sea. The temperature here crosses 45 degrees Celsius during the day, while there is moisture around the sea and the temperature is very low. In such a situation where the cold wind blowing from the sea goes towards the airport, then that cold wind comes in contact of hot air, which makes the difference in the airflow. Therefore, a change in the wind flow is often seen around the airport. After a few months, the pilots were recovered and fit. So a team of investigators were to interrogate the pilots. The pilots made a shocking revelation. They said we were landing perfectly, but suddenly the direction of the wind changed and the plane crossed the touchdown point of the runway. Soon we came to know that we would not be able to stop the plane before the end of runway. So we took the decision to go around. I pressed the takeoff go around switch, that is the toga switch. The power of the plane's engine should have been increased automatically, but this did not happen. Our full attention was on the runway. We thought that the toga switch was increasing the power, but the truth was that this switch was in idle. When we came to know about it, it was too late. The plane started to lose altitude and started falling down rapidly. And finally, it crashed. The toga switch contains various modes. When we consider the case of go-around, pilot presses this at the time of landing, by which the auto throttle sets in a go-round mode, and automatically it starts to increase and decrease the engine thrust as per need. Accordingly, this switch should have worked, but it didn't. But why? What was the reason? These all questions were answered by the flight data recorder. Finally, report of the HDR was out, and after a long investigation of 3.5 years, On February 6, 2020, the final report was made. Let's take a look on the events sequence-wise. When the plane was landing, the air was flowing from behind the plane, means it was pushing the plane forward, due to which the speed of the plane increased and further it also crossed the runway threshold line, where the plane had to land. The sensor sensed that the plane should have landed by now, but it was still in the air. So it rang the alarm. Landing gear, landing gear. So the pilot started a go-around process and ATC also gave clearance and set to go to an altitude of 4,000 feet. Then suddenly the wind which was blowing from behind started blowing from the front, which started reducing the speed of the plane and prevented it from taking off. At this time, for a few seconds the landing gear of the plane touched the runway. Now the system of the plane started feeling that the plane has reached the ground, so it made the auto throttle idle. That is, it went to the neutral so that the speed of the plane should not increase and the plane should stop. But the pilots were trying to go around it. They pressed the toga switch, but the switch did not work. The pilot also did not know that the landing gear of the plane has touched the ground and auto throttle has gone to idle. Toga switch is pressed when the plane wants to go around, but this plane had touched the ground, due to which the auto throttle went to idle. The pilot was unaware that the tire of the plane has touched the ground. In such a case, the thrust of the plane has to be increased. But unaware of all these things, the pilot never paid attention to the power of the engine of the plane. And when he paid attention, it was too late. During the go-around, the pilot had a lot of workload, setting the flaps, closing the landing gear, protecting from the tail strike, following orders of ATC. All this has to be done quickly. The various types of alarms keeps on irritating. Apart from this, the pilot was told during training that while going around, the toga switch has to be pressed. After this, you can start your work. The auto throttle will keep doing its work. So every pilot is habituated to simply press the switch and it will do its work. That's why the pilot doesn't pay attention to it. So I hope now you have understood the whole concept, that how this plane could not take off again and how it fell down like a stone. For now, that's all in this video.